We're taking on a big topic today, basically what IT looks like and the role of the IT leader in a post-pandemic world. For more information on this topic, please click on the link above or the one below. Sanjay, let's just dive right into it. We're coming out of a period where business, the IT organization, organizational roles, customer relations, you name it, were essentially reordered by a global pandemic. So how do you see IT and the role of IT leaders as being different post-COVID than what they were pre-COVID?
I think, Linda, it's a great question. And one of the biggest changes that I'm seeing coming out of it is the move from what I would call digitization to digital transformation. And it's super interesting because at first glance, they kind of seem like a similar idea, similar topic, words actually very close together, but they couldn't be further apart in what's involved. In many ways, digitization is about taking any process, any end-to-end process, breaking into its parts. You take every single part, you automate it, you digitize it, you make it faster, you make it better, you make it cheaper, make it higher quality, and then you digitize the process. But at the end of that, the process actually is just the same. It's just that it's faster, better, quicker, cheaper, if you will. Digital transformation is actually an entirely different thing. It isn't just that. It's actually about taking an end-to-end process and redesigning it, reimagining what the value proposition needs to be, rethinking through the customer experience it delivers, and therefore redesigning what that looks like end-to-end. And once you've done that, you now have the ability to take these new capabilities, these emerging technologies, things we didn't have 10 years ago when the original value chain was put into place, but we now do. And so with the help of these capabilities, you're now able to redesign, reimagine, and redeliver the same value proposition in a very different way, in a manner that once you're done with digital transformation, the work itself changes. It isn't the same work.
Yeah.
So what we're finding is that this big transition is happening, and this is on the top of every CIO, every CEO, every board's minds that I interact with.
So let's focus in on everything changes, and in particular, roles have to change in order to bring about digital transformation. Let's start with the CIO role.
Well, if you think about it, the CIO has always been a super important role, and I'd like to kind of liken it to the role of a flight engineer. You can't take the plane off if the flight engineer is not on board. He or she serves a super important purpose. It's mission critical. It's lights on operation. It's just, it's about delivering a really important capability to keep the engine, in this case, the plane running, but the enterprise running. We're seeing a big change happen, right? Because with the digital transformation and using technology as a way to deliver a new business value proposition, the world is now starting to center around digital, and the role of the CIO is changing because he or she is now more and more becoming the pilot or the co-pilot, helping their colleagues and their stakeholders and the rest of the executive committee really reimagine the business value proposition on the back of new technology. And so that's one big change that's going through, because the seat at the table, the role of the individual is completely changing. I think the other thing that's happening, by the way, but tech is no longer the long pole in the tent. And what I mean by that is when you do digital transformation, it isn't just the tech, it's the data, because you have to harvest, light up, and extract and use the data meaningfully. And that's a whole other sort of ball of wax, if you will. Then there is the piece about people, operating model, resourcing, skilling, cross-training. And then there's a bit about the process, because as I said earlier, the process changes in the way you do digital transformation. And so you have to rethink, what that looks like, what the operating model looks like, et cetera. And so the world of the CIO now is becoming, if you will, less tech, and more about integrating technology, data, people, and process, and orchestrating change across all four of those dimensions. And so that, if you will, then puts the CIO in a very different position. And as a result, you require a very different set of skill sets. You have to have a very different approach. And the way you balance, what you're learning from the outside world, and so you have to be an outsider really to be able to bring in new emerging technologies and ideas and be able to tap into the venture community and new research and development, et cetera. And yet you have to be an insider, because these are fundamental grounds up transformation, large, complex changes that we're trying to drive. And so you need the stakeholder buy-in, you need the participation of all of your counterparts. And so the role is changing, the profile is changing, the skill sets that are required are changing, the way you approach the job is changing, and who you work with is changing. And so tremendous change happening on every single dimension of that CIO role.